Earlier this month, after the last round of WWE Releases, there were rumors that there would be more coming. Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast kind of teased it. He said he was told as much. He just didn't know which day the next shoe would drop. Well, that day was Friday. Usually Friday is the day where you do like a news dump if you've got bad news of some kind. Friday is usually the day that kind of stuff happens. 14 wrestlers in total lost their jobs on Friday. All of them tied to either the NXT brand, the 205 Live roster. Of course, with some of these guys, they were on both. There's some overlap there. As well as one writer. And I'm going to get to her in a little bit. So 15 people that we know of in total lost their jobs on Friday. This as WWE continues its string of budget cuts led by Nick Khan. So let's go through these names. There were no major shocking names like last time with Braun Strowman and Aleister Black, who had just been brought back to television. I mean, that was just head-scratching. Nothing on that level this time, but there were some longtime names who are no longer part of the company. Fandango and Tyler Breeze, both members of Breezango, were let go. Johnny Curtis, he's been there forever. I mean, his name is really not that surprising. He's also dealt with a lot of injury issues over the past few years. Honestly, neither of those names are surprising, given how they were used. The Tyler Breeze cut makes me sad because I was a big fan of the gimmick when he first got over on NXT. And he will forever have the distinction of being Jushin Thunder Liger's opponent in his one and only WWE match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn back in 2015. Unless you count the Wrestling Summit in Japan in 1990 as his first WWE match, since WWE was co-promoting it with some other promotions in Japan. I don't count that. So he has that distinction. But, you know, they pulled the plug on Breeze's push almost instantly, within a few months. They pulled the plug on his push after he got called down to the main roster, and he never recovered. I mean, not as a singles. He found some success in a comedy duo with Fandango, but he was never really given a chance. I mean, how many times have we said that about people who were called down to the main roster from NXT? You know, I always likened it to Honky Tonk Man got a lot of heel heat as the Intercontinental Champion, right? As a guy who was just completely full of himself and people wanted to see him get his ass handed to him. I think Breeze, in that gimmick that he had at that time with the selfie stick and coming from seasonal residences and singing his own song and all that stuff, he could have been a similar type of heel. I don't want to compare him to Shawn Michaels because he's not Shawn Michaels, but it does make me think of Shawn Michaels when he first went single as a heel in 1992. And he sang his own song, and he would look at his reflection in the mirror when Sherry would carry the mirror around to the ring for his entrances. I always envisioned Breeze finding success right at that IC title level. But when they give up on you, it's very hard to recover from that. And he never did. Killian Dain was cut. Big Damo. Same week that his wife turned into a superhero. He lost his job. He's been part of a comedy team with Drake Maverick. When they first started it, I thought for sure they would end up with the tag team titles. And I really think that not being in front of fans is what killed them. I really do. I think that act with the two of them as the unwilling partners and that corny, cheesy music, you know, whatever limited number of fans they had there in the COVID Coliseum, it's not the same. I think that act would have gotten over at Full Sail in front of, 400 or 500 people every week. His fate may have turned out differently were it not for the pandemic, but in recent weeks they phased those two down a lot. They really weren't being featured as much on television. He posted a long statement on social media thanking a bunch of people in the company, very appreciative for his time in WWE, but he admitted that he's angry. Said, "While I know this wasn't personal, that chip is back on my shoulder, and you will regret letting me back into the world. I'm only 36. I love what I do. I believe I'm entering my prime, and I cannot wait to show you what you missed. See you in 90 days. And good for him. I hope he does. I hope he finds success somewhere else. Marina Shafir was let go. That was surprising. Not that they've been using her at all lately, but because there were reportedly plans to bring her back to TV. She is married to Roderick Strong, and the last time we saw her on television was with Roddy, when they did that one segment on NXT television where he handed his resignation letter into William Regal. That was the last time we saw Roddy until he reappeared on TV this week with this new Diamond Mine faction. That could have been a great re-entry point for her if they wanted a female badass in that group. And then she gets fired. So that leaves Shayna Baszler as the sole horsewoman from Ronda Rousey's squad that's left. I mean, I guess Ronda might still technically be under WWE contract, but right now, Shayna is the last woman standing. And they have her feuding with a doll on TV. Ever Rise. Chase Parker, Matt Martell, who just wrestled Hit Row on this week's NXT. They were on the list of cuts. They've been doing comedy skits backstage for a few weeks. Not a real surprise. Arturo Ruas, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy who made a handful of NXT appearances, and then he was brought in for the massive success that was Raw Underground. He got drafted to the Raw brand after that last fall, and then he was quietly moved back to NXT. And he tore his biceps in a match with Kushida back in November, and was never heard from again. 6 years. He spent 6 years under contract with WWE. Clearly, they were not going to be doing much with him, although now I see reports and rumors that he was going to originally be included in this Diamond Mine faction, which, honestly, I mean, he probably would have been a good fit for it, but certainly up to this point, it never seemed like they had any clear direction for him. And again, not really a shocking name to end up on the list. Tony Nese, his big moment came on the kickoff show at WrestleMania 35, where he beat Buddy Murphy to win the cruiserweight title. Nese is a native New Yorker, so I'm sure that was a big moment for him to win the title at MetLife Stadium. He was on the list. Arya Daivari, August Gray, who used to wrestle under the name Anthony Green. He came over from Evolve after Evolve closed up. Kurt Stallion, who only signed with them in October. He had surgery in March for a fractured wrist. He had just been cleared to return just in time to clean out his locker, I guess. The Bollywood Boyz, Samir and Sunil Singh, who had their greatest success as lackeys for Jinder Mahal when he was getting his big push with the WWE title. They shared a very nice message they received from their hero, good friend of theirs, Bret the Hitman Hart, saying, "You both can hold your heads up and you've always followed your hearts, gave your best every night, and always kept your integrity. The answers to what comes next will soon appear to you, and if I can offer any support or advice, you know I'm here for you both. I'm proud of you both." Well, that was very nice. I think I would shit myself if I got that kind of text message from Bret Hart. But these are all 205 Live guys. All the names I just mentioned, from Nese to Daivari to the Singh brothers, these are all 205 Live guys. And I don't know anybody who watches 205 Live. Not with any kind of regularity. So it made these people the most expendable names on the roster. When they're doing budget cuts, these are going to be the first names on the chopping block. And it does not bode well for the future of 205 Live that they basically let go of 80% of the show's roster. Sean Ross Sapp says that gutting 205 Live was not one of the plans that Triple H had to further emphasize the cruiserweight division, which they recently started doing more of with Kushida as the champion, right? He's had this open challenge now for several weeks. I don't get the sense that Triple H is consulted on any of this stuff before it happens. And he can't be very happy about that. I mean, at this rate, outside of existing international deals they may have to satisfy, I don't see the need for 205 Live at all. I haven't seen the need for 205 Live in a long time. It would make more sense to slowly integrate whatever cruiserweight names are left into the NXT brand and just make it exclusively an NXT property. I don't see the need for 205 Live. The last name on the list is Tino Sabatelli, who was fired last April, then rehired in October, and then never wrestled a single match. About 10 days ago, he tweeted about the LA Knight segment on NXT. When LA Knight attacked the $1 Million Man, he said, "This is cute, but how about an actual multimillionaire getting involved?" Because he played 6 years in the NFL before signing with WWE, so I'm sure he is. He probably is a legit millionaire. Which is good, because now that he's unemployed, he can take his time finding a new job. The most egregious of all these releases so far, with all these cuts over the past few months, the most egregious of all these releases has been Samoa Joe and Aleister Black. Joe is already back on NXT. Black, I'm thinking, and by all reports I've been reading, the betting odds are that he will land in AEW. And I hope he does. WWE was supposedly having second thoughts on axing him and thinking they made a mistake. Yeah, no shit. They made a mistake. I hope he doesn't just waltz back in thinking that this time things are going to be, magically different than they were before. Any of these other names, look, they'd fit in fine on any roster. I hope they find work. But I don't see any of them as a real difference maker. And that doesn't mean that they can't get a fresh start somewhere. They can't reinvent themselves and prove me wrong. I hope they do. I think it's a shame that WWE has spent years stockpiling talent without any real regard for what to do with them, only just to go and discard them when they want to save a few bucks. That, I think, is the real shame in this.